A sitting state lawmaker stands up on the House floor of Texas. A sitting state lawmaker stands up on the floor of the Texas House and announces into a live microphone in front of God and the C-SPAN camera that God is non-binary. And then, because apparently that did not clear the room fast enough, he clarifies there are 6. I went to public school and I only ever managed to locate the standard 2. Other team, a state attorney general, gets impeached by his own Republican House, gets indicted for securities fraud, gets divorced on, and I'm quoting his wife here, biblical grounds. And then he wins his primary and takes out a 4-term United States senator like it's layup at the buzzer. Blue bench, a congresswoman looks at a governor who uses a wheelchair and nicknames him Hot Wheels. Looks at the single richest man on the entire planet on camera and tells him to F off. And then sits down and explains to the rest of us that she is one of the 535 most powerful people in this country. The humility just pours off her. You could bottle it. Back to the red bench. A candidate for governor of Florida stands in front of a voter on video and tells the man he should be lynched out loud on tape in the year of our Lord 2026. Back to the blue bench. A Senate candidate up in Maine turns up carrying old posts calling the police bastards. Posts calling half the country stupid and racist, and a tattoo on his chest he has to go on television and cover up because it looks like a little too close to an SS insignia, and he wins his primary by 34 points. Read that again. Red bench again, just to be fair. Out in Michigan, a candidate rolls camera on a glossy campaign ad. Extras, background action, the full production. Outdoors in the middle of a hazardous air wildfire warning. Because nothing says, put me in charge of your safety, like filming a commercial inside a public health emergency. And here's the part I need you to sit down for. None of those were bloopers. Those weren't the losers. Those were the winners. Now let me take you back, and not ancient history, not once upon a time, my lifetime. 2008, Rudy Giuliani runs for president of the United States, front runner for a while, and one of the heaviest things hung around his neck, the thing the serious people in the serious rooms chewed on for months, was that man had been married 3 times. That was baggage. That was a genuine liability. That was, the smart set agreed, maybe the thing that quietly sinks him. 3 marriages. Today, 3 marriages qualifies you as the stable, well-adjusted one in the field. Today, that's the guy they wheeled out to calm the donors down. Relax, everyone. He's only been divorced twice. He's practically a monk. So I have exactly one question tonight. And like always, it's the only one that matters. What happened to candidate quality? And before we answer, hang on. First, this. Folks, if common sense has become part of your weekly routine, ChadParkerLaw.com is your home base. Every week you'll find something new, whether it's my latest books, a new editorial, the Gaily News, or my free Common Sense Conservative Manifesto, or everything else we're building together. And if you've got a question, an idea for an episode, or you think I missed the mark, call or text me at 252-CHAD-LAW. Some of the best conversations on this show start with your messages. All right. Let's get into today's episode.
When you need common sense, come see Chad Law, the boldest pundit you ever saw. His truth hits hard and the talk is real. Reality rules and that's the appeal. Spreading truth, yeah, that's his cause. Opening eyes, yeah, who needs applause? When you need common sense, then come see Chad. He lays down the law when the lies get bad. The media may think you're dense, so come where it's real with common sense.
I'm Chad Law, the last gay conservative, America's binary brother, the common sense extremist living in radical reality, broadcasting truth on the only rainbow that matters, the red, white, and blue rainbow. And America, this is Common Sense, the show where we read the fine print so you don't have to, where we bring receipts instead of outrage, where politics is just the starting point for something much bigger. This is the shelter for the politically homeless, where reality gets a vote, results matter, truth matters, and common sense matters. So welcome home, America. You felt that montage, and you've been feeling this for a while, this low hum in the background that something has come loose from the wall. Candidates today walk away whistling from things that would have flattened an entire campaign a few years ago. And it's not a red thing, and it's not a blue thing. Left, right, and that whole exhausted middle that quit watching the news to protect its own blood pressure, everybody has clocked the same shift. You're not imagining it. You're not being dramatic. It's real, and it's on both benches. And here's what we all do the second we notice. We reach for the same tired shrug. Politics is just crazy right now. Which is not an explanation. That is an observation in a trench coat, standing on a second observation's shoulders, trying to buy a ticket to the movie is the whole answer. Politics is crazy right now is the thing you say when you don't actually know why, and you'd honestly rather not go looking because you suspect you won't like what's back there. That's my job. So here's my one promise for the hour, and I'm only going to make it one time because a show that keeps promising to blow your mind usually never does. By the time we're finished tonight, you are going to know exactly what changed. Not a mood, not a vibe, the actual machine with the actual gears. And I'm bringing receipts on both benches. A stack on the Democrats, a stack on the Republicans, and I'm spending every one of them because a man who only roasts one team isn't a host, he's a mascot. And I didn't become the last gay conservative to end up as anybody's mascot. And the whole thing starts with one small, faintly embarrassing little move that every single one of us has quietly started making inside that voting booth. Every single election. And has never once said out loud. Years back, my favorite comedian, Jerry Seinfeld, did a bit about being a sports fan. And I swear it might be the single most honest thing anyone has ever said about human loyalty. He said, your favorite player, the guy you love, gets traded to the rival team, same guy, same face, same knees, same swing, same human, and you boo him. You hate him. Why? He switched shirts. So you were really never rooting for a player at all. You were rooting, as Jerry says, for laundry. You're standing up in a stadium, painting your chest, screaming your lungs out for clothes. And I want you to hold on to that because I think we've quietly, without ever admitting it, started doing the exact same thing with the single most important hire any of us ever make. The people we mail off to run our entire lives. The jersey, the little R, the little D, the color of the sign in the yard. That used to be step one of the homework. Step one of maybe 15. Now, for an enormous number of us, it's the whole homework. It's the entire report card turned in blank except for the color at the top. And the actual human being wearing the jersey, a rounding error, an afterthought. A name we'll learn later if it ever comes up at a dinner party. And I've got the cleanest possible example sitting right on the board. Texas, one Senate race with two men. In the blue corner, the lawmaker from the top of the show, God is non-binary. 6 biological sexes, the whole tasting menu. And hilariously, when he got asked about the God comment later, by the way, his defense was essentially, take it up with the Apostle Paul. Bold strategy subpoenaing a saint to your campaign. Then there's the red corner, the Attorney General impeached by his own Republican House, indicted for securities fraud, divorced on biblical grounds, who went out and knocked off John Cornyn, a 4-term senator, a pillar of the party, in a primary. 2 men. And here's the thing that should stop your fork halfway to your mouth. Each one is quite literally the other one's attack ad. You could take either man's actual factual resume, read it out loud word per word, slap some ominous cello music underneath it, and it airs as a 30-second spot against the other guy. And you wouldn't have to write a single line. The opposition research already comes pre-written. It's just their lives. So ask the obvious question, and we're going to keep asking it all night, so get used to it. Why didn't either of these two get filtered out? Why didn't the 6 sexes floor speech end the blue guy? Why didn't a whole impeachment from his own team, his own side, end the red guy? Because it was never about the man. Not for 1 second. It was about the color. They won their primaries walking away, hands in their pockets, whistling. Because in Texas, the red jersey hasn't lost a statewide race in about 30 years. So the red team does not need their guy to be clean or careful or even coherent. They need him to be red. And the blue guy's floor speeches, the ones that make Republicans clutch their pearls and reach for the fainting couch, are the exact same floor speeches that makes his own side leap up out of their seats and cheer. Same words, opposite room. One man's disqualifier is the other man's standing ovation. Nobody in that entire race was hiring a senator. Everyone was just picking out a jersey and headed for the parking lot. And you want proof that we all secretly know we're doing this? We printed the confession on a t-shirt. The left has a slogan. You've seen it 10,000 times. Vote blue, no matter who. And the right went out and manufactured a slightly less clever but mirror image. You can order the t-shirt today in 3 colors. Vote red, no matter who. Now just sit inside those 2 sentences for 1 second. Both of them are a confession. Both of them are printing the quiet part directly onto cotton, no matter who. Who is a blank line. The who doesn't matter. 2 political teams agree on absolutely nothing on this earth, independently wrote the identical sentence with the identical rhyme scheme. And it means precisely one thing. Bring me my color, and I will personally supply the human being later from the back if I get around to it. And listen, before anyone decides this is some shiny new modern disease, it's not. My grandparents' generation had a whole term for it. The yellow dog Democrat, meaning you would vote for a literal yellow dog, an actual dog, 4 legs, no platform, before you'd ever cross the aisle. 100-year-old instinct, that one. The only genuinely new thing is that we finally, in our time, built a machine big enough and fast enough to feed that instinct. And listen, before anyone decides this is some shiny new modern disease, it's not. My grandparents' generation had a whole term for this. The yellow dog Democrat, meaning you would vote for a literal yellow dog, an actual dog with 4 legs, no platform, before you would ever cross the aisle. It's a 100-year-old instinct. The only genuine new thing is that we finally have, in our time, built a machine big enough and fast enough to feed that instinct 24 hours a day, 365 days a year with a push notification. And I'll be straight with you. I saw this one coming from about a mile off because I spent a real chunk of my life in marketing. I sold brands for a living. And the dirtiest little secret of that entire business that nobody says on the record is that a strong enough logo lets you ship a weaker product and get clean away with it. People do not buy the sneaker, they buy the swoosh. They don't buy the cup of coffee, they buy the little green mermaid on the side of it. You get the symbol strong enough, glowing enough, tribal enough, and the actual thing inside the box almost stops mattering entirely. And somewhere in the last decade, our politics went to the same night school I did, and I learned the exact same trick. Our candidates stopped running products. They started running logos. And you don't audit a logo. Nobody fact checks a swoosh. You just pull it on over your head and wear it to the family cookout and dare your uncle to say something. So if the jersey is the whole ball game, then the single smartest move in modern politics quietly stopped being be qualified. The smartest move became go viral. Skip the middleman. Become the jersey yourself. And that brings us to Jasmine Crockett. This is a woman who built a genuine coast-to-coast national profile out of functionally clips Hot Wheels at a governor in a wheelchair, telling the richest man alive to F off into the camera on purpose, announcing to the assembled nation that she is one of the 535 most powerful people in the country, which I looked it up is technically true, and also the least self-aware sentence produced by a member of our species since we first climbed down out of the trees. Which I looked it up is technically true, and also the least self-aware sentence produced by a member of our species since we first climbed down off the trees. And she took that highlight reel, not a record, a highlight reel, and parlayed it directly into a campaign for the United States Senate. So ask it again. Why is that a launch pad instead of a landmine? Because the clips were never the accident, never the gaffe, never the thing that happened to her. The clips were the campaign, the whole thing. She treats a viral moment like a continuing education credit. You rack up enough of them, and apparently you have satisfied the coursework required for the upper chamber of the United States Congress. And here's the part that seals it. She lost that primary to the six sexes guy. And her stated on the record reason for losing, quote, "It was a racist race." Even the defeat gets folded gently, lovingly back into the jersey. The laundry explains the win, and then it turns around and explains the loss, too. It always has an explanation. That's what makes it a jersey and not a brain. Which brings in tonight's surprise witness, a man who absolutely did not agree to appear on this program and is going to hate every second of it, Joe Rogan. Because Joe Rogan endorsed Donald Trump in 2024, pulled the red jersey on over the head in front of the entire internet and the entire manosphere, and then, not very long after, he sat down across the table from our six biological sexes God is non-binary Texas Democrat and told him, and I am quoting, quote, "You need to run for president." So inside of about a year, the single most powerful podcaster alive on the earth today personally anointed a Republican president and a non-binary God Democrat. The man cannot keep his own laundry sorted. He's got reds thrown in with whites. He ran the whole load on hot, and now everything he owns is a confusing shade of pink, and he just decided to call it a look. And keep Joe in your back pocket, because he's going to keep wandering back into this episode like a guy who parked at a very large mall and cannot for the life of him remember which lot. And now, before anyone in the red jerseys gets too comfortable back there, sit down. Because my side runs this exact play, and my side runs it bigger. 2028, the next Republican presidential primary, and Turning Point USA, an enormously influential conservative organization with a real ground game, has already gone and endorsed a candidate. J.D. Vance, before there's a race, before there's a primary, before there's so much as a calendar telling anyone when the primary would even be held. Their leader stood up in front of thousands of activists and vowed to get him elected for 48, meaning the 48th president in the most resounding way possible. In their straw poll, Vance takes 84%. 84. Second place, Marco Rubio gets under 5%. And they're already standing up ground operations in Iowa and New Hampshire for a contest that structurally, legally, does not even exist. That is not a primary. That is a coronation, and the invitations haven't even come back from the printer. There's still a Groupon out for the catering. And here's the part that ought to genuinely sting if you love a real ledger the way I do. You know who came in under 3%, that same straw poll? Ron DeSantis. A governor who has run Florida to the #1 economy in the entire country 3 years running, ranked by outside groups, not by his own press office, on a 4th straight year of actually cutting state spending. And then there's Sarah Huckabee Sanders, first woman to run Arkansas, passed a whole top-to-bottom school choice overhaul in the first year, cut taxes, just posted record tourism numbers. She's not even in the conversation, not even a rounding error in the poll. Now, I need you to hear me and hear me clearly, because I'm not up here endorsing a living soul, and I mean that. That would make me the single largest hypocrite in North America in the exact middle of a show about how brain-dead early endorsements are. I would deserve every angry text you people could physically send me, and you'd be right to send them. I am not telling you who is best. I'm holding up two things side by side in the light, and I'm letting you look at them. On one side, a folder thick stuffed with actual measurable results. On the other side, a jersey everyone agreed to wear before the whistle blew, before the coin toss, before the teams even took the field. And the folder full of results is losing 84-3. And if your gut just went, well, Vance is obviously the guy, Chad, come on. Well, congratulations. You've proven my entire point right here live on the air. It is obvious because of the jersey. Not because a single soul sat down and actually compared the work. We don't even go through the motions of checking anymore. And in case you think this is hypothetical, some thought experiment I created, we already ran this exact experiment in 2024 when DeSantis showed up with the whole binder, the full record, the receipts, and the binder lost to the jersey going away. We watched the resume lose to the laundry in real time with our own eyes. That is not a prediction I'm making. It's a rerun you already saw. And if you want to watch this whole thing reach its absolute final form, it's boss level, the last screen before the credits, look no further than the race for mayor of Los Angeles, second largest city in America, 4 million people. And on the official candidate list for the primary, Spencer Pratt, reality television, Spencer Pratt, who I really liked and supported, by the way. This isn't about whether you like him or his politics. It's just hilarious that as a civilization, we've arrived at a point where I was a memorable villain on an MTV reality show is a running start towards governing 4 million humans. Because fame is a jersey too. Name recognition is just a color you can wear without joining a party. You don't have to be qualified. You have to be a name the algorithm already recognizes when it comes up on the feed at 2 a.m. So that's the ground floor of the whole thing, and we're going to build up from there. We stopped hiring people. We started picking laundry. The jersey is the resume now, and the human being is optional. But here's what genuinely started keeping me up at night. Staring at the ceiling. The vetting didn't just evaporate into thin air. It didn't vanish. Somebody still decided who gets to wear the jersey in the first place. Somebody printed these exact names, these specific human beings, out of all the millions available onto your specific ballot in your specific town. The thing that vetted the candidates was the scandal. Simple as that, clean as that. You did something disqualifying, the story broke in the paper, and the story removed you from the field, escorted you out. The scandal was the quality control department. It was the big guy at the door checking IDs, turning people away, keeping the riffraff out of the building. Well, the big guy is still standing there. He's still got the clipboard, still got the little earpiece. He just started waving everybody straight through. Velvet ropes on the floor. He's holding the door open with his foot and nodding people in. Felony? Go on up. Nazi tattoo? Second floor. You've been divorced on biblical grounds? Oh, VIP section up to the left. I mean, let me build you a resume live in real time, and I need you to watch the needle. Watch the needle the whole time, because the needle is about to do something that it is not, under any known law of politics, supposed to do. Graham Plantner. First-time candidate, oyster farmer, combat veteran, genuinely compelling backstory on paper. Problem 1, old post surface where he calls every last police officer a bastard. Okay, in a normal functioning universe, the campaign issues a careful lawyered apology, absorbs the hit, limps forward a little wounded. His crowds got bigger. Then problem 2, more post surface, this time calling rural white Americans stupid and racist. Now, in that same normal universe, this is the end of the road. This is where you start quietly drafting the concession speech and calling the venue about the deposit. His poll numbers went up. A poll in the middle of all this had him up 34 points. Problem 3, and this one's real, I'm not waving it off. A tattoo on his chest turns out to closely resemble the Totenkopf, a Nazi SS symbol, and he has to go on camera, point at his own chest, and publicly announce he's covering it up. He didn't remove it, mind you. He covered it, which is honestly its own perfect little metaphor for this entire episode, but that's a different show and a longer therapy session. Cover up complete. The needle? His numbers are still climbing. Problems 4, 5, and 6 in a blur. Senior campaign staff quitting. More old comments surfacing. More brutal headlines by the week. And the man does not sink. He will not sink. He wins his Democratic primary by 34 points. And when reporters described his campaign as collapsing, he told them, and I love this, that internally they had never felt this strong. It's like every fresh scandal unlocked a brand new donor tier. Most campaigns, when the ugly story drops, put out a statement. This campaign put out what looked like a loyalty reward. By scandal number 4, you genuinely expected the endorsements to start arriving with a little punch card stapled to them. Vouch for 10, get the 11th one free. Ask about our free rewards program. Because this is the real story of tonight's second act, and it's a different animal from the first. In the old system, the party vetted the candidate. The smoke-filled room, deep background checks, somebody actually looked. In the new system, a famous person vouches for him, and the vouching is quietly, completely replaced the vetting. So let's do this properly. Let's do it the right way. Let's call the character witnesses to the stand, if you will, one at a time, and let them testify. Let's start with Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders takes the stand, looks at the tattoo, looks at the post, looks at the whole groaning pile of it, and testifies under oath, more or less, quote, I'm sure he's not a saint. And then vows to do everything in his power to make this man the next senator from the state of Maine. Thank you, Senator. Compelling stuff. Witness excused. Next, we would call Elizabeth Warren. Senator Warren looks at the same man, the same chest, the same ink, and calls him, quote, the real deal. Praises his grit. Now, for the record, and I want this in the transcript, this is the same senator who not long before had warned the country that a different public figure's tattoo might make that man a threat. Different man, different tattoo. Apparently a completely different tattoo policy filed under a completely different section of the handbook. Let the record show the witness's credibility has entered into evidence. She literally claimed Pete Hegseth had a Nazi tattoo, which has been proven it's not at all, and then said nothing about Graham Plattner. This is the Jersey crap I'm talking about. So now let's move to another candidate, and for this candidate, I'm going to call Tucker Carlson. We're going to talk about a Florida governor hopeful, and Tucker vouches by going on the record on his enormous show predicting, quote, pretty soon, all winning Republicans will talk like this. That was said a matter of weeks before that same candidate stood in front of a voter and told him on tape that he should be lynched. The witness's prediction did not age like fine wine. It aged like milk on a dashboard in Phoenix. The witness is now unavailable for comment. Tucker just forgot about it. And the defense recalls its star witness back to the stand, Joe Rogan, who, as we established, 3 hours conversationed his way into personally anointing roughly half the ballot, red and blue, across 2 parties, possibly 3. Joe Rogan, unfortunately, has been placed in witness protection and relocated to an undisclosed location. We wish him well. The other evidence, let's call it Exhibit A, is the candidate's appearance on a popular political podcast during which, and this is real, this happened, he lip-synced shirtless at a wedding, tattoo out on camera. The prosecution has no questions. The exhibit speaks for itself, right? That's how it would go in court. And here's the tell, the thing that gives the entire game away. There was exactly one witness who would not take the stand. The sitting governor of Maine, his own party's establishment favorite, looked at the same groaning pile everyone else was cheerfully vouching over and flatly refused to endorse him. 2 other Democrats actually dropped out of the race specifically so they could back her instead. So the one person in that whole building who would actually have to sit next to the guy and govern took one look and said, "No, thank you. I'll pass." The hostile witness told you more in her silence than in every friendly witness told you in their speeches. See, when the people who you'd have to work with won't vouch for you, but the people selling the tickets will, that right there is your whole answer, right in front of you. It's the whole rotten ticket laid bare. Nobody stands up anymore and says, "We vetted him. We pulled the record. We checked the references. Here's the file. It's clean." Somebody famous stands up instead and says, "I talked to the guy for 3 hours. Great guy. Loved his energy. He's really present." That's the background check now. That's the entire thing. The old background check was the FBI, fingerprints, sworn affidavits, a paper trail you could hold in 2 hands. The new background check is a 3-hour podcast with a mid-roll ad break for mushroom coffee and a mattress you can try for 90 days risk-free. The candidate sat across a little table from a celebrity. The vibes in the room were reportedly strong. Everybody nodded a lot, and the entire American Republic has been formally, respectfully asked to just take it from there. The voucher liked his energy. Close the file, print the yard signs, and order the balloons. You've been anointed. And think for 1 second about what that actually replaced. It replaced people whose entire job, whose salary, whose reputation, whose sad little professional existence depended on knowing where the bodies were buried before the other team showed up with shovels. Opposition researchers, party operatives, mean, paranoid, deeply unpleasant professionals who got paid good money to assume the very worst about their own candidate and then go digging to confirm it. We have fired all of those people, every one, and we replaced them with a guy who says namaste and sells you a weighted blanket at the commercial break. We did not lose the vetting because it got too hard to do. We lost it because the vibes were easier and cheaper and frankly got way better ratings. And here's the wildest part. The jersey will insult its own sponsor to your face and still sell you the shirt at full price. Watch this. That Texas Democrat, the Six Sexes guy whose entire brand, whose whole beating heart is banning billionaire money in politics. He wants to ban super PACs, overturn Citizens United, tax billionaires into the sea. That guy just took a $10 million check from a billionaire. One check from Reid Hoffman, the pedophile co-founder of LinkedIn. And that single check was nearly 80% of his super PAC's entire haul for the quarter. The man has now raised something like $70 million, a good chunk of it, billionaire money, while screaming into a microphone about the corrupting influence of raising $70 million in billionaire money. His opponents got about 17. And in fairness, because I'm always fair, his campaign says they can't legally control what a super PAC does, which is true. It's just a heck of a thing to strangle the golden goose with one hand while catching the eggs with the other. And it didn't even dent him, not a scratch, because the outrage is the pitch, and the pitch is clearly obscenely working. And watch who threw the first punch about that billionaire money. Not a Republican, another Democrat. Our Hot Wheels Congresswoman, you remember her, came out swinging at him for cozying up to the exact billionaire he campaigns against. In the old days, this is where the party chairman sprints across the room to break it up. Not in front of the other team, fellas, come on! Today, nobody breaks it up, nobody even tries. Because two people on the same team going at each other is content. It's clips, it's engagement, it's 3 news cycles and 100 million impressions. The infighting doesn't get smothered anymore, it gets a sponsor and a highlight package. The house is on fire and everybody out front is selling marshmallows and charging for parking. And it runs on the right the identical way. I told you, I'm not letting my team skate. Ken Paxton took his own indictment file and turned it into a loyalty card. Every subpoena became a fundraising email. Every attack from inside his own party became proof he was over the target. The scandal didn't weaken the brand. The scandal became the brand, the logo, the whole sales pitch. And come on, we all watched the single biggest version of this play run. So I'm not going to insult you by pretending we didn't. A mugshot, actual booking photo, the worst photo of a human being's entire life, became a record fundraising day and an entire merchandise line. On coffee mugs, on t-shirts, on a Christmas ornament, I think at one point. That is not a scandal surviving. That is a scandal getting monetized before the ink on the fingerprints were even dry. In the old world, a mugshot ended you. In the new world, a mugshot is a merch drop with a limited edition colorway. So does the filter even fire at all anymore? Yeah, I mean, it does. I want to be honest about that. It just shows up humiliatingly, uselessly late. That main campaign did finally crack, not on the tattoo, not on the post, not on any of the political stuff, but right at the end on a very grave and serious allegation that I'm not going to build a single joke out of, because some things are simply not for jokes, and you know the difference, and so do I. And out in California, Eric Swalwell wrote a pure cable news brand, the anti-Trump guy. Not one signature law, not a landmark achievement in his entire life, a posture, a chair he sat in, all the way up to front runner for governor of the largest state in the entire country, before serious allegations from multiple women surfaced and ended the whole thing in roughly 48 hours. And here's the pattern. And this part is not funny, and it's true, so I'm going to say it flat. The modern filter waits. It waits until the candidate is already built, already funded, already endorsed, already branded, already printed on the yard signs and the coffee mugs and the bumper stickers. And then, only then, it fires. It waits around for a reporter to finally do the job the party was supposed to do in-house. It waits until the building is fully engulfed, flames out every window, and CNN's got a helicopter circling the wreckage for a live shot. The smoke detectors works great. Top of the line. Just doesn't go off until you can already see the flames from the interstate on your drive home. And think about the timeline that creates, because the timeline is the whole scam. By the time the filter finally trips, the candidate has already raised the money, already won the primary, already printed the signs, collected the endorsements, and this is the important part, already trained his own voters to treat every single attack as fresh proof that he's winning and they're scared. The reporter finally shows up to do the job the party used to do, and he shows up to a fire that already took the whole block and half of the next one. We didn't get rid of the smoke detector. We just moved it out to the garage and pulled the battery out of it to put it into the TV remote. So the filter is not gone. Let's be surgical about what actually happened to it. It's late. It fires long after every real decision's been made. It's outsourced. It sits around waiting on a journalist instead of a political party. And it only trips for the single worst, most extreme thing imaginable. Everything short of a felony or a helicopter shot sails straight through, untouched, waving it as it goes by. Which leaves exactly one genuinely nasty little question hanging in the air over all of it. Why would a candidate and a political party and a billionaire and a podcaster all bet this big, pour this much money and this much borrowed credibility onto people this completely unchecked? Unless every single one of them was already dead certain, bone certain that nobody could ever, under any circumstances, fire them. The funny thing about all those character witnesses, go ahead and try to find one of them now, right now, after the candidate detonates. Suddenly, nobody was formally involved. Suddenly, everyone was just having a conversation. The 3 hours great guy has gone very, very quiet. Hasn't posted in a while and hope he's okay. The real deal endorsement got quietly scrubbed off the website over a long holiday weekend when nobody was looking. And everybody who cheerfully co-signed the loan is now standing in the driveway squinting hard at the paperwork going, you know, I'm looking at this signature and I'm not 100% sure that it's even my handwriting. Character witnesses, meet the Witness Protection Program. New names, new cities, we'll be in touch. Don't call us. So why was every one of them so comfortable co-signing in the first place? Why vouch that early, that fast, that loudly for people that completely unchecked? Same answer as everything else tonight. Nobody, not the candidate, not the party, not the billionaire, not the podcaster, nobody ever once believed the customer could fire them. And you already understand this one all the way down in your bones because you've lived it. Every single one of you has worked with the guy who cannot be fired. And it genuinely doesn't matter why. Maybe it's tenure. Maybe it's a union rule. Maybe he's the owner's nephew. Maybe he simply knows where a body is buried and everyone's decided not to ask. The mechanism doesn't matter one bit. What matters is that he knows it, and you know it, and he knows that you know it. It's a whole silent language. And how does that guy work? He doesn't sprint. He has never, in the entire recorded history of his employment, sprinted. He rolls in at 9:04. He's gone at 4:56. He has got the raw personality of an orange traffic cone. And when you bring him an actual urgent problem, he looks at it like you've just asked him to donate a kidney to a stranger. He is not a bad man, truly. He's just a person who ran the math one time years ago, got a very clear answer, no consequence, no effort, and then quietly stopped showing his work forever. He's not lazy, he's efficient. He solved for the incentive. It's a lot of humans. But now take that one guy and multiply him by an entire building. Congratulations, you have just personally invented the DMV. Think about it for 1 second. When is the last time the DMV handed you a little comment card and asked warmly, "How was your experience today?" There is no card. There is no "please rate us 1 to 5 stars." There's no little suggestion box on the wall. And if there ever were one, it would be painted shut and there'd be a second sign taped over it apologizing that the suggestion box is currently out of service. And you know exactly why, because it doesn't matter even a little what you think. You need the license. They've got the license. And there is no other DMV. There's no competitor DMV across the street with a nicer waiting room and free coffee run by a scrappy DMV startup trying to win your business. They don't have customers. They've got hostages holding a little paper ticket that says B47. And there's no manager to escalate to either. You ask to speak to a manager, they hand you a form. The form goes to a department. The department is one guy. The guy is on his lunch break. And he's always on his lunch. And there is no refund because there was never a receipt, because it was never a sale. It was a hostage situation with an American flag hung up behind it and a photo of somebody's grandkids on the desk. And the exact word that you should be thinking this entire hour is monopoly. See, a monopoly is just a business with no competition. And the one thing nobody ever warns you about a monopoly, the thing they leave out, is that the price creeping up on you is honestly the least of your problems. The real rot, the deep rot, is what happens to the quality, to the effort, to the service, to whether one single human being inside that building cares whether you live or whether you die. Because competition, the live, daily, genuinely terrifying possibility that you could lose the customer to another guy, that is the one and only thing that has ever reliably squeezed real quality out of human beings. Not virtue, not good breeding, not good intentions, fear. The plain, ugly, useful fear of losing. You don't need me to prove it. You already know the one gas station for 15 miles on the highway has sticky floors and a restroom that will visit you later in your nightmares. And it's not because the owner is evil. It's because you're stopping there whether he mops or not, and he did the same math the unfireable coworker did. And you already know the one cable company in your zip code puts you on hold for 45 minutes to a loop of hostage tape music. Same reason, no competition, no consequence, no mop. And I'll tell you exactly where I learned this one in my own gut, because I lived on the other side of it. When I ran my own shop, the thing that kept me sharp, the thing that got me out of bed at 6 and made me answer the phone on the first ring and sweat details nobody else would ever even notice, was one simple, miserable fact. Every client I had could fire me any day, any random Tuesday, no notice, no severance, no goodbye. That fear was not fun. I did not enjoy it. And that fear made me good. And I'm telling you from experience, the precise day you stop being scared that you might lose them is the precise day you begin quietly to get worse. And the true cruel part is that you can't feel it happening in the moment. Nobody coasts on purpose. Nobody decides to coast. You coast because the road went flat under you and not one single person had any reason to mention it. So carry all of that, the cone, the DMV, the fear, straight back into politics, and I promise you the entire hour clicks shut like a seatbelt. Politician in a safe seat is a monopoly, full stop, end of sentence, which is 96% of our governing bodies. No competition, no satisfaction survey, no manager you can ask to speak to, no refund, and the same exact clerk is going to be sitting behind that exact window next Tuesday, no matter how badly today went for you. Here's how a seat gets to be safe. The district lines get drawn, or people just naturally sort themselves, move to their team's neighborhood. So lopsided in one direction, that the November election, the real one. And I've talked about this a lot, political monopolies, which is a big problem we're in right now. When there's no competition, there's no satisfaction survey and no manager you can ask to speak to, no refunds. And the same exact clerk is going to be sitting behind that same exact window next Tuesday, no matter how badly today went for you. And here's how a seat gets to be safe. The district lines get drawn, or people just naturally sort themselves, move to their team's neighborhood. So lopsided in one direction that the November election, the real one, the one where the other team actually gets a live swing at your head, becomes a total formality, decided before it even starts. A coronation with a turnout number, which means the only vote left that can ever lay a finger on you is your own party's primary. We spent the first half of this show learning exactly what a primary grades. It grades the jersey. So follow the whole chain, link by link, and there is no consequence anywhere on it, nowhere. You are not the customer in that arrangement. You are the hostage holding ticket B47, and every person behind that counter knows it in the second you walk in. Nobody in a safe seat thinks they are getting fired. And here's the thing, they're not wrong. They're right. They're not getting fired. And now watch. Watch the entire cast from tonight reorganize itself right in front of your eyes into one single picture. The main guy wins by 34 points because his voters were a captive audience. He was the only viable jersey on the shelf, so there was no possible version of Tuesday where he loses. You do not proofread the menu at the only restaurant in a 100-mile radius. You order the chicken and you say thank you. Crockett builds a highlight reel instead of a record, and of course she does. Why wouldn't she? Because a safe district never once mails her a satisfaction survey. She's not confused about the job. She's optimizing flawlessly for the one and only thing in this entire system that genuinely cannot fire her. Attention. Paxton's whole impeachment from his own party carries no price tag at all, because in a statewide lock primary, the voter is a hostage. Where's he going to go? Vote for the Democrat? Walk to the other DMV that doesn't exist? Exactly. Swalwell builds an entire national career out of pure brand and posture with almost nothing at all underneath it, because when your house seat is a lock, there is precisely zero penalty for being all Jersey and no build. The system pulled him aside early and quietly told him the build was optional, and, reasonable man, he believed it. And it was true. Oh, and then the character witnesses vouch so freely, so fast, so loudly, because in a monopoly, vouching is free. It costs nothing. There is no downside whatsoever to co-signing a loan when every single person in the room is dead certain the bill is never, ever actually coming due. And even the coronation snaps clean into focus now. Turning Point crowns the heir apparent 84-3 before a single vote gets cast anywhere. And the governor with the #1 economy and the whole school choice record gets a polite little wave from the door. Why? Because results are a thing you actually bother rewarding when there's competition to reward them. Kill the competition early, anoint the jersey before the tryout even opens, and a binder full of real, measurable accomplishments turns into a party trick nobody asked to see. A monopoly doesn't shop the resumes. It already picked its guy. That folder full of results is just sitting out in the lobby still, waiting on an interview that got quietly canceled and nobody called to tell it. And now go all the way back to the very top of the hour. The montage, the 6 sexes, the covered-up tattoo, the man telling a voter he should be lynched, the reality star running for mayor, the ad shot in the middle of wildfire smoke. At the top of the show, that looked like a freak show. Pile of lunatics. Look at it one more time now. It's not a freak show. It's a personnel report. It's the stack of files an HR department hands you at a company where nobody can be fired. Every one of those people is doing precisely what a no-consequence job pays out for, and every one of them got promoted for it. And here's the tell that honestly gets me the most. Let's go back 15 years. Think about a mayor who catches wind of a camera-ready animal rescue down on Skid Row. Dog's in genuine real trouble. What does that mayor do? He sprints. Windbreaker on, hair fixed, cameras rolling, jaw set for the photo. Not in my city. That used to be political gold, lying right there on the sidewalk, and they would dive across 3 lanes of traffic to grab it. Today, that same layup just sits there on the ground, untouched. The nonprofits down there got so little urgency out of City Hall that they eventually gave up and mailed the whole thing to the FBI, to federal law enforcement, because the response at home simply wasn't coming. Not because anyone down at City Hall is a cartoon monster twirling a mustache, because the dogs cannot fire you. The rescuers cannot fire you. There is no Tuesday where ignoring it costs anybody the job. The hero moment used to be worth sprinting across traffic for. Now, nobody will bend down to pick it up off the pavement because there's no jersey in it and nobody to beat. That's the whole trick. And so we all suffer for it. And this is the part that keeps the whole hour from being a straight bummer, so stay with me here. This matters. I found the crack in the wall. Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles. She was out of the country while the city was, I mean this word literally, on fire. And the voters dragged her into a runoff for her own second term in deep blue Los Angeles. But now watch very closely what happens the exact second a genuine competitor shows up inside the monopoly. Watch how fast the customer service reopens. Watch a comfortable, coasting incumbent suddenly rediscover overnight how to answer the phone, how to show up, how to sprint to the podium in a windbreaker. Add one real credible threat of losing the job, just one, and the entire reflex comes roaring back to life like it was never gone. Which tells you the most important thing in this whole show. The reflex was never actually dead. It was only asleep. It was napping because we, all of us, stopped ringing the bell. And that's the genuinely good news behind this whole grim little episode, so hang on to it. You don't have to rebuild anyone's character. Character was never the variable. You're not going to fix Washington by finding nicer people. Good luck. Let me know how that search goes. The variable is whether they believe you can fire them. That's it. That's the one dial. Change that single number, And the exact same politician who couldn't be bothered to look at the dogs on Skid Row is suddenly out there personally carrying a golden retriever into the vet's office in front of 6 cameras and a drone. So every single clown we laughed at the top of this hour is doing precisely what the incentives are down on their knees begging them to do. They are not the problem. They're the receipt. So I ask you again, what happened to candidate quality? Candidate quality didn't die. We just stopped paying for it. The jersey replaced the resume. A famous voucher replaced the vetting. Scandal stopped being a cost on the books and turned into a fuel in the tank. And the safe seat quietly deleted the one and only thing that ever forced anyone anywhere in any job to be good: the plain fear of getting fired. Line all 4 of those up in a row, and the candidates stopped being a mystery. They stopped being a freak show, a random pileup of weirdos who lost their minds on the same weekend. They are exactly, precisely, mathematically what a system produces when it quietly stops paying for quality and starts paying richly for absolutely everything else, especially attention. Giuliani's 3 marriages couldn't survive 2008 for a simple reason: the machine hadn't stopped checking yet. It has now. It clocked out and it left a note. And here's the last piece, the one I keep circling back to. For 30 years, Rush Limbaugh would not endorse in a primary. People begged him. Callers pleaded with him on the air, and he refused every single time for 30 years because he understood one thing that every last person in this episode forgot. The second you tell people who to pick, you own whatever they do next. You bought it. It's yours now. Every voucher in this entire hour learned the hard way. They co-signed the loan. The candidate wrapped the car around a telephone pole at 2 a.m, and now they're standing out on the curb in their bathrobes, squinting at the loan documents under the streetlight, going, looking at this, I don't think it's my signature. Must be a forgery. Rush never signed a single one of them. Not one. He guarded the only thing sitting on that whole desk that was actually truly his. 30 years of people screaming at their radios, "Just tell us who to vote for, Rush!" And 30 years of the single biggest voice in the country saying essentially no, because he understood something the vouchers forgot. Your credibility is a bank account, not a fire hose. You spend it on the wrong guy, it does not come back the next morning. The people vouching today treat their good name like it's bottomless, like it refills overnight while they sleep. It does not refill. Go ask any of tonight's character witnesses if you can find them. Because the second you vouch, the second you lend your good name to someone, you own a piece of whatever happens next. That's the deal. That was always the deal. So you don't get better candidates by begging politicians to become better people. That has never worked once in the history of the Republic, and it's not about to start working now. You get better candidates the day being good is the only way left to keep the job. Reagan had a line I've always loved. Status quo, is Latin for the mess we're in, the single fanciest sounding word in all of Washington, D.C., and it just means the mess. That's it. That's the translation. And here's what I keep circling back to every time. Reagan never once told people the mess was permanent, and he never told them it was their fault. He trusted them. Democrats, independents, folks who had never pulled a Republican lever once in their entire lives. He trusted them, all of them, because he was sure, right down to his boots, that regular people were smarter than whatever happened to be running the show at the moment. And I happen to think, looking around, he was exactly right about that. Still is today. A mess is not a life sentence. It's just a room nobody's decided to clean yet. So, don't respect the mess. Don't you dare treat it like the weather, like something that simply falls on you out of the sky and it can't be helped. The people who built this country got handed a mess and got told firmly that it was permanent, that this was just how things were. And they rolled up their sleeves and cleaned it anyway. You come from these people. It's in you. It's in there. It's in me. And that is not a pep talk, folks. That's just common sense. All right, that's our show. Find us on Rumble, X, Instagram, and Substack. And if you've got something to say, that line is always open. 252 Chad Law. If you see us, share us. You're on Rumble. Don't move. We'll reset the studio. Be back in about 10 seconds while I answer all the questions that came in the show via text. In America, this has been Common Sense. We'll see you back for Freedom Friday.